Well, hey everyone, my name is Carlos, and we got to talk about ownership. Okay, ownership is one of the most powerful tools that we have that creates harmony. And today, we're really struggling with that, right? I mean, we're not doing harmony very well. So, to really make my case about how powerful ownership is to harmony, I am going to utilize a resource. So, Russell Brand is interviewed on the Rubin Report about an interview he did on Bill Maher recently. And the reason he's talking about it was because there was somebody else there from another network that was getting stuck in the weeds by saying, you're worse than everybody else, or you're worse than we are. Well, at least we don't do what you do. And that's where Russell Brand went at it with this idea of, what are you getting caught up in the weeds for? Why are you jostling for who's worse? How about we just take ownership? Because we're all doing it imperfectly. We're all failing at this to a degree. Why don't we take ownership so we can move forward? We can find solutions. Because as long as we're stuck in the weeds of you said this, you said that, you're worse than we are, we don't do what you do. As long as we get stuck in the weeds like that, we're not going to move forward. And in this clip, Russell talks about that. So let's listen just for about a minute.
Yeah, I feel we can't move forward with the conversation it happens in politics, doesn't it? When they say, oh, well, this is only happening because the last administration done that, or this is because CNN or Fox News or whatever. It's like, well, why don't we focus on what we're contributing individually, or if we claim to be the representative of some sort of movement, class, culture, or advocacy group, perhaps then we can look at how, if we claim to speak on behalf of them, and certainly I make no such claim, then we should look after ourselves and our own conduct.
Okay, so there you go. We should look after ourselves and our own conduct, right? Now, I love how Russell, he's like CNN, Fox News, he's like, look, if we can just admit where we have failed because we're not perfect, then maybe we can stop getting defensive and attacking each other. Okay, and that's what I really want to come back to. So let me give you 3 ways that we can establish harmony through taking ownership. The first step in taking ownership is to say, I'm sorry. It's a really good place to start. It takes a lot of humility, but that's the really good place to start. Is first, I just want to start off by saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for how that went down yesterday. I'm sorry for how that conversation went. I'm sorry that got so heated. I'm sorry that feelings got hurt. I'm just sorry for how I handled all of that. Notice I'm not sorry for anything about you. I'm focused on me, my side of the street. I'm sorry for the way it went down, okay? And the second step is I have to admit that I was impatient with you. I have to admit that I was really frustrated. I have to admit to you that I was really angry. I also have to admit that I was very resentful. And I think that's where that was coming out. We've had this talk before, and I just was really super frustrated. We were trying to have that conversation, and I projected that onto you. So I have to admit that. I have to admit that I wasn't patient enough. I have to admit that I wasn't curious. I have to admit that I really didn't care at all about your opinion. I really didn't, to be brutally honest with you. And that's where all of that came from. And then I have to acknowledge, after spending some time thinking about what happened and how that went down, I have to acknowledge also that how I could have done that differently. Trust me, I've spent a little bit of time on this because I really want you to accept this amends. I want to grow from this. I want us to grow from this. And that's why I spent some time dissecting this. And what I've come up with is I could have been more patient. I have to acknowledge, I know I didn't pick a really good time. You've told me before, how you're really not in a good place to talk after 11 o'clock at night. And I chose to break that boundary, and that's what happened. So I could have been more mindful that you have a lot less in you to talk after 11 o'clock. I also know that you had a really rough day, and I could have been more mindful of that. Like, this probably wasn't the best time to bring it up, okay? And I also as I was thinking about this, I thought, whenever we talk about this particular subject, you get triggered a lot of the times, and you've shared with me why you get triggered. I have to admit, I wasn't very mindful of that yesterday, and I could have been more mindful of that as well. So there are some things I just could have done differently, and also I really could have coped better. When you said that one thing to me, it really triggered me, and I I really attacked and accused you at that point, and I hit below the belt. I could have done that differently. Again, I'm admitting what I'm doing wrong, what I've done wrong, but I'm also acknowledging what I could have done better. And I could have been more mindful. I could have been more patient, and I could have been more considerate of where you were at. And you know what? I hope we can do that better next time, because I don't want to stop talking about this. It's an important topic that we deal with. I just know that I can do that better. Boom. The three things. What did you hear? You heard, I'm sorry, good place to start. Number two, admitting how you failed. We all fail. It's okay. It's not the last time we're going to fail. And number three, acknowledging what you could have done better. That took some mindfulness. You had to think about that a little bit, didn't you? But that goes a long way with creating harmony. When you do that, it really does help the other person start to consider what they could have done differently as well, doesn't it? Okay. Now, there's a lot more to this, and it's very nuanced, but these are three really good places to start to help establish harmony. Okay, is ownership. And I've seen it work. I've seen it work right in my office, right on my couch, having a couple do this when they're really struggling. It happens in relationships, friendships, non-romantic relationships. It can help in work relationships. That process of I'm sorry, admitting, and acknowledging what I could have done differently could just be a way to harmony in some of your relationships. Did you get something out of that right there? Was that helpful in any way? If it was, I'd love to hear something from you in the comments. Give me an idea of how you can relate to it, or if you know somebody else, like I always say. If you wouldn't mind subscribing and hitting that like button, that would be super big for me too, as I'm trying to grow this little baby channel of motivated minds. Remember, climbing that mountain of transformation and change starts with a motivated mind. Make it a great week, no matter what. Commit every single day today to being a better version of yourself than you were yesterday. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.